Hello everyone, this is David Akesson, and this is my first attempt at going back in time, revisiting some of the albums that I've done earlier. So today we're going to talk about this album, Moonlight Agony's 2007 album Silent Waters. And I actually had to do some research before I did this video because there are a lot of stuff that I forgot, since today it's like 12 years ago since the album was released. So I'm thinking that I'm going to talk a bit about the time I was in the band between late 2005 and mid 2008. Give my view on some of the stuff, just talk about the production of the album, and then maybe show you some stuff that no one's ever heard before. If you have the patience to endure some name dropping and nostalgic storytelling. In late 2005, I was frequenting a social media platform in Sweden where there was a lot of music discussions, and I saw an ad about a band searching for a new singer, and it basically said, "Can you sing like this?" and a link to a song from the first Moonlight Agony album, Echoes of a Nightmare. Singer on that album was Shitty Somapala. And yeah, they, like I said, they basically said, "Can you sing like Shitty?" And ballsy young David Akesson answered simply, "Yes." So I had to send them some stuff that I've done before, but I really didn't have that much stuff to send, so I had to go up to Gothenburg, or Kungsbacka more precisely, to meet the guys and have a tryout. So I met up with the band. Like I said, I think it was late 2005, and was very well received. They were so nice and welcoming, letting me into their homes, rehearsal space and stuff like that. And even before we had even tried out singing, we had a really good time together. I mean, these guys were, up until then, the funniest people I've ever met. Not stupid funny, but smart funny. We had a really good time. We had some beers and talked a lot, and then it was time for singing. I had to learn some of the songs from the first Moonlight Agony album. I think it might have been Ceremony, Vanished, and perhaps it was a title track too, Echoes of Nightmare. I can't really remember which songs. And the guys in the band were Robert Lindstedt on drums, one of the founding fathers, or sort of, and Kalle Landin on guitars, the other founder of the band. We also had Rickard Peterson on guitar, and Martin Mellström on keyboards. At the moment there were no bass player at the time when I was auditioning, but Christer Pedersen, or Sigge as he's called, a guy from he was playing in Dragonland at the time too. He joined in on bass guitar later. Like I said, we had a great time, and I also got to try some of the new songs, just some very basic rehearsal space recordings. And then like a month after, I got a call from Robert, who basically told me that you're in the band. And I was really happy, and I since I had no experience of anything, I was amazed. I was the singer in a band with a record label behind them, and we were going to record a new album and release it. So I was in seventh heaven. Most of 2006 was spent on writing and recording the second album, Silent Waters. I was living in Malmo, and the guys were living in Gothenburg and Kungsbacka. So I went a lot with it. It was a lot of traveling by train. So we wrote lyrics together. Most of the songs were written by Robert, Kalle, and then Martin and Rickard had some small pieces or some songs of their own that were integrated into the bigger ones. I also got to contribute with some lyrics and some vocal melodies, both new ones and some that were changed or rearranged. And we made some demo recordings in the rehearsal space in Kungsbacka, engineered by Sigge and Martin mostly. We by the summer we had a really good pre-production with 10 finished songs, and it was time to record the album for real. So Moonlight Agony were the first band to ever record in Evergrey's studio, Division 1, when they recorded Echoes of a Nightmare. So naturally it was, for me it wasn't a choice, I was just going along with it. But we decided to record the second album there too. And I wasn't present for the drum recordings since I lived in Malmo and I studied at the university, so I didn't really have the time to sit by and watch. And Robert was so fast anyway, so it was done really quickly. We also did some reamping of the guitars and basses, or the bass at Division 1. It was engineered by Arnold Lindberg. He is a musician and engineer. He plays in Superload and Deafening, and he has done engineering work for Avatar, Dragonland, Evergrey, In Flames, Leaves Eyes, and many, many more. And he also does a lot of live sound engineering for bands like Europe or Hardcore Superstar, and many more that I don't know about. Uncredited, Tom Englund was present for some production and mixing too. And when it was time for vocals, I showed up. At this time I didn't have any home studio equipment. This was like in 2006, so if you had home recording stuff, it was really expensive. So, and I didn't have that kind of money and not the knowledge to use it. So I arrived one day at the studio and we immediately started to work. And it was a really new experience for me to sing an entire day from when I woke up until I had to sleep. And it was very Spartan accommodations in Division 1. We had like a room with mattresses where we could sleep, and we could walk for 30 minutes to some kind of gas station where we could buy some food. I think there was a restaurant somewhere around too, but we didn't have any money to go and eat at a restaurant every day. So I kind of felt the pressure, both as the new guy and to, cost a lot of money to be in the studio. But eventually I screamed too much and we had to, finish. So I had a pretty raspy tone the whole album. I think it sounds cool, but it wasn't really what I was aiming for at the time. And when it came to doing backing vocals and also some additional lead vocals, we basically took a computer and a microphone, the same microphone as we used in the studio. Arnold helped us arrange it in Kalle's apartment, and I stood there. It was during summer, in a mattress fort. It was like, you know, a fort you build as a kid with cushions and stuff like that to dampen everything. So I stood there, and it was so amazingly hot. I remember I stood there. I had to sing in just my underwear, doing all the choirs, and still I was sweating like a pig. So that was an interesting experience. We also did some vocal recordings in the rehearsal space. Some of the more screeny stuff, if I don't remember wrong. And then it was over to mixing. And all the other guys had a lot of experience, both from the first Moonlight Agony album, and they had a really clear vision of what they wanted. They wanted, both in songwriting and sound, they were aiming for melodic, progressive power metal with a clear but punchy, deep, dark sound. And I didn't have the vocabulary to express what I wanted, so I sat on the side and listening to what the other guys were thinking, and Tom and Arnold, the most experienced guys in the room. I remember some moments, you know, where we talked about vocals and the choirs, that the the lead melody was drowned and needed to stand out more. And I also remember some having some thoughts about synthesizers and strings and stuff like that, and also one argument about the snare drum sound. No one mentioned, but someone thought we had a crappy snare sound, and that the sound on another band's recently released album was much better. Well, in the end, I think the mix turned out great, and the mastering was done by Dragan Tanaskovic. Correct me if I can't pronounce it. He is a masterer, and he has worked with just like Arnold. He has worked with Avatar. He's also done a lot of work for Dark Tranquillity, Free Kitchen, In Flames, and he was also on the 6'6" project that I was involved in many years later. I wasn't there. I don't think any one of us were. But I remember getting my own CD, my burned CDR copy of the album when it was finished, and listening to it. It was an immensely proud feeling to be a part of something like that. And then it was time for the cover. I don't remember if it was simultaneously as the other stuff was happening, but and I wasn't really involved in that either. But I know that it was Jan Yrlund that was chosen to do the artwork. And if I can learn how to conquer the magic of video editing, I will show you some examples of what the album could have looked like. But in the end, we ended up with this. Jan is a musician too. He's in Imperia, and he has done artwork for countless bands. I can't mention them all, but Battle Beast, Windrose, Delane, Manowar, Pyromaze, many bands. And I think when it was all done, we had our Danish management instrumental, and they started to search for record labels that would be interested in releasing this album, Silent Waters, by Swedish band Moonlight Agony. And I think we got some different options, but we ended up with a label called Dockyard 1. Don't ask me why, but that was the label we ended up with. They released the album, and I think we had an option for another album in the contract. And I also remember getting the contract mailed, by regular snail mail, and signing it, feeling like a rock star, and sending it back. For me was a really big deal. There, about the Dockyard 1, this was in 2007. In 2009, Dockyard 1 closed or went bankrupt or whatever, and they later re-emerged as Dockyard 2. And as Dockyard 2, they did 5 releases and then another bankruptcy. So I honestly don't know who holds the rights for the album, or I don't even know if it's possible to buy it anymore. Googling around, I found this on the internet. Looks a bit suspicious, but looks like you can buy it. Both before the recording of the album and after the recording, I appeared live with Moonlight Agony a couple of times. We played some small festivals and clubs in Denmark and Sweden, and it was always great fun. It was also a new experience for me to be a singer in a progressive power metal band. And I learned a lot, but I also messed up a lot, I think. Which might be one of the reasons I eventually was asked to leave the band. I don't really know why. I'll get to that later. After the release of the album in March 2007, we were finished and done by the end of 2006. But in March 2007, we had the album released, and we were already working on some new songs during 2007. And we had some meetings, and we tried some. We recorded some vocal lines. There were some lyrics written and songs written, preparing for another album. But somewhere along the time, I don't really know what happened, but during the late spring of 2008, I got a call, and the guys had discussed it, and I think there was something like they were looking for. They wanted another kind of voice for the band, what that really meant, I'm not really sure. And I was naturally I was very sad. Kind of at the time it hurt my feelings a bit, but I was in another place in my life where I could find other stuff to be interesting instead. But I was a bit heartbroken because I thought we had a good thing going, and I thought that we had done a great album. But you know, that's how it goes. They were in search for another kind of voice for their band, and I think they wanted to get me out before we were closing in on finishing the next album. But what I think is that stuff kind of loosened up after that, because there never was a third album. And I moved on, and the other guys moved on in other bands and other projects. So there's no hard feelings anywhere or stuff like that. I just think it was kind of sad. First of all, it was sad that I was kicked out, and it was also sad that they didn't get to finish and make a third album, even if it was without me, because still to this day I have people writing on social media and stuff about Moonlight Agony, and even though for me it's something very far back in my history, but you know, sometimes when I speak to people that I cooperate with nowadays and say, "Oh, I love that album, it was great," and before trying to make this video, I listened again, and I think it's a great album. It has some dark elements, but it's still catchy melodies, great sound. Even the snare drum sounds great, and I think it did a pretty decent job considering I was like 21 and had no metal experience at all. There are a lot of songs to I think it would be very hard to choose a favorite. I distinctly remember one discussion we had that each and every song had something special that highlighted it and made it stand out alongside the others. But I think that perhaps the song Different Stories, it was one of the first ones I tried to record. It's a very good song, catchy, great kind of poppy melody. Same thing with I'm Alive. I really love that song, both the softness and the kind of controlled anger. Leaving Solitude. I remember the Dark Era had a really screamy, angry, aggressive, very hard vocal line in the first versions, and we changed it to longer notes. I think it turned out really great. I really got to sing my heart out on that one. More. Oh no, I can't choose a favorite. I think, but if I had to, I think it would be I'm Alive. So I am still very proud of this album, and it really deserves its place on the wall. and I listen to it occasionally, and I enjoy it. And I have great memories from the time in the band, and I wouldn't change anything, I think. Stupid thing to say. Probably I would change a lot of stuff and make a lot of stuff better today if I did a re-recording. That won't happen. Instead, I will try once again if I can get the magic of movie editing working. I will try to show you a couple of minutes from some songs that were supposed to be on the third Moonlight Agony album. Some of the songs where I did some demo vocals. Nothing's finished, the sound is crap, but it might be enjoyable for one or two persons out there, and I will try to get things working so I can play it for you, and at the same time show you some photos from my time in the band. So this was my attempt to go back in time and speak about an album. This might be one of the longer videos because there are a lot of stuff to say, but it was really fun to go back in time, listen to it, and you know, checking out some old photos and listening to stuff. I will also try to put a link to the Japanese bonus track. I found it on YouTube now when I searched for it. So I hope you enjoyed this little video of me going back in time. And if I get things working, I will move on to the next album on the wall, which is The Forbidden City by the Italian metal band Twin Spirits. So, until next time, bye bye, hope to see you out there.
We can't deny it, we are lost. We keep on searching in vain. We're blinded by the treachery and lies, but still we will search and find. but still we will search and find. Journey far beyond my mind. Travel far beyond your mind. Fear will drag you down. Watch your back, never turn around. They are closing in. Watch your back, never turn around. Offering death, famine and pain, these are the cruelest of tales. Logic is lost, justice is blind, evil prevails. Fear of the unknown, driving us to collision. All in vain, all in vain. A common enemy, not a people or a faith. It's not impossible to find. Every week, cataclysmic alarms, still we are here. The glorious fourth estate, the power that's always screaming wolf. Sensational news, no need for the truth. Corrupt education. We can't